Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
Hello, everybody. This is Sandy, and welcome to, I don't think that my show is working. Oh, yay. We are on air. Bex.
Sandy, can you hear me?
Hi, I can hear you. It finally is working.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Awesome.
So sorry for the 26-second dead air time, which is like an eternity in radio time. But I'm so glad it's working. It was just not responding at all. So thank you, everybody, for listening in. This is Sandy Weiner, and I am so glad you're here. I am the founder and chief love officer at lastfirstdate.com. I want to thank you all for joining us here today. Last First Date Radio is an acclaimed show about achieving healthy, off-the-charts love in the second half of life. And we have an excellent, wonderful show coming up for you today. I am going to be speaking with the woman you just heard, Bex Burton. She is a dream builder coach, and she's going to talk about mindful practices you can use to break through love blocks and open back up to love. And I'm just going to give you like a really quick pitch out to go to my site for a minute when you're finished with this show, and sign up for my free guide on how to stop making the same mistakes over and over again in dating and relationships after 40. I find that people tend to not see what they're doing because they're too close to the situation. And so if that sounds like you and you're having trouble finding love, please go to my website after you listen to this show, lastfirstdate.com. Sign up on my homepage. because I want you to find out what mistakes you're making, learn how to turn them around, and really find epic love, big love, the kind of love we're going to be talking about today on the show. Also, if you have not yet joined my Facebook group, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to keep it as a free group, but we are growing every day. We have about 520 women in there who are every day posting their triumphs, their challenges in dating after 40. And so if you would like to be part of the group, well, it's still free. Join us. It's Your Last First Date on Facebook. All right, so Bex Burton, let me introduce you real quickly. She is a certified DreamBuilder Coach. She can help you design and manifest a life that you truly love living. Since a young age, Bex has manifested dream upon dream in her own life, including a marketing career in Broadway Theatrics, a movement and wellness company in New York, and most impressively, her own true love story, which she conjured up creating a hula hoop performance art. And I love that story. I actually would love for you to tell it because it's such a cool story. Bex is somebody I know through the summit that I did with her. She hosted a summit, a wonderful summit, to help people radiate and attract love into their lives. And she does tons of online and live workshops and transformational in-depth programs, coaching programs, and they're designed to ignite the fire within you so you can achieve new heights of success, purpose, and spiritual aliveness. Juicy stuff. So welcome, Bex.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm so touched, and thank you so much for this invitation.
My pleasure, and I'm so happy you're here and sharing your sparkle and wisdom, and I just really connected with you, and I wanted you to come on our show and share with the audience how to attract their big love. But first, can you tell us a little bit about how you attracted yours?
Sure. Yeah, I'm already getting a little goose pimply thinking about it because it's just such a magical story, and I'm a big believer in spirit and God and divinity and the divine influence that the universe has on our life. And, you know, there's no doubt in my mind that my partner was, put on my path divinely. In fact, you know, we were, the moment that I realized that he was my person was the moment that he turned to me and asked me if I believed in soulmates.
Oh.
And, it was just really a remarkable way that we came together. You know, I was a performer at the time, and I had been let go. I'd been fired from a volunteer gig, and I was...
Does that happen?
Yeah, it totally happens. And I put all this time and energy and effort into this event, and got let go right at the last minute. And I had a breakup with a friend that I was kind of semi-dating, like all in the same week. And my heart was just in the pits. And and I felt like I had this moment of decision, you know, and instead of really allowing myself to like crawl into a hole, I turned in the direction of doing something that was bigger than I'd ever attempted to do before, something that scared the living bejesus out of me. And for me, that was creating a very, very large-scale piece of choreography in the dance methodology that I was teaching at the time, which was hula hoop dance. And so I embarked on creating this big, all-inclusive performance piece. And in the making of that, you know, I really dove into it, and I made it just it just really ignited my fire, and I went full bore into it. And simultaneously, I had forgotten that I was online. I had an OkCupid profile up, and I got a message from a guy who just really, you know, made me shake my head and blink my eyes kind of thing, because it was just a really inviting and inspiring message, and it's totally out of the blue, you know. And so at the same time, I'm creating this the biggest art project that I'd ever created in my entire life. I start engaging with this gentleman, and we met up, and we are slowly peeling back these layers, and it turns out that even though we met online in the biggest metropolitan city in the United States of America, we had over 70 friends in common. We
Wow.
had been dancing around each other for the last 5 years at the same parties and events. We'd actually been invited to the same girlfriend's birthday party we were both planning on going to the night of our first date. We never made it to that party. And on our first date, he was asking me all kinds of questions and asking me about my passions. And, of course, the story of my performance art piece unfolded. And he asked me if I had anybody filming the piece. And he was a documentary filmmaker at the time. And I said, no, are you offering? Just kind of delirious with like wonderment. Like, really, this is, you just met me, and it's a big offer. And and sure enough, he offered. And a week later, I had gotten to the point where my walls were down, and I had decided that, okay, this is a very good man. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time with him, was kind of what I had determined about a week later. And then several days later, at the unfolding of my show, we're in New York on Governor's Island. There's thousands of people in the audience, and I've got about 50 hula hoopers that I'm rattling. And the piece that we're dancing is composed of 2 songs put together. And months back when I was planning it, I had written out the lyrics to these songs, and just kind of chuckled at myself at the love story that I was reading when I paired these 2 songs together. And I was laughing because I had just had this breakup with this man months ago. And the day of the show, however, I'm hearing the music in a whole new light, and I'm hearing this love story, and I just nearly lost it because I realized that the love story that was spelled out in the dance piece was actually my own love story. Like the words of the 2 songs just played out everything that I was experiencing. And I had this moment where I realized that I had written my own love story through my art. And here he was, the man of the hour is here filming the piece for me. And I've gathered my entire community, all of my students and all of my dancers, to welcome him into my life, just coincidentally. And the name of the piece was called Hello. And and that was the moment, after the piece, I realized that this was not just a man that I was going to spend a fair amount of time with. This is my person. And so we took our bows, and there's all this commotion, and he wraps up his camera, and he says, it's kind of crazy here. Do you want to take a walk and get out of here? And I said, yes, let's. So we escaped the hubbub of the aftermath of the show, and we sat down a ways away. And that's when he turned to me and he said to me, do you believe in soulmates? And I just, I nearly lost it. And I said, yes, I do. And I believe that you're mine. And that was the beginning of our epic love tale.
I love it. It reminds me a lot of Ariel Ford's Soulmate Secret, and her manifesting this guy who she recognizes when he walks into her life, who became her husband, and he recognized her as well. It was like, if you have that kind of clarity of who it is, then you recognize that person. And so it's such a great story. And it sounds like a fairy tale to probably a lot of people listening. I actually met a guy on OkCupid once who offered to film something that I was about to do, and it turned out to be such an epic disaster. It was I had never met him before, and I knew that I didn't want to date him. So it's like the opposite story. And then he shows up, and he's got his video equipment and all of his really heavy duty, expensive, super professional looking. I had checked out his website, and he offered to do this for free. And when he sent me the pictures and the video, I couldn't use any of it. He photoshopped me and my co-leader to the point where we looked comical, like we were looking in a circus mirror, like that level of bad.
No. No.
So I had like the opposite story of you. I met my anti-soulmate.
Oh my goodness.
On OkCupid, who volunteered to film me. So anything could happen, but you know what I always say, if it's a bad date, it's a good story. So So tell us, what do you think is the number one ingredient that's necessary to bring in your big love?
Oh, that's such a great question. There are so many components. But in my opinion, when you whittle it down, I really believe that our mindset is just an absolute necessary ingredient in attracting big love. Because if we don't have the right mindset, the expansive mindset, the open and flexible mindset of possibility, then it's very possible that we might be missing it left and right. And I think that there's something to being flexible and being open and being expansive that kind of ties in with curiosity and just allowing, and I guess that also ties in with our feminine energy. But yeah, really being open to possibility, being of the mindset that big divine love exists, being in the mindset that magic exists, miracles exist. And, if we possibly don't believe that in our love life, I encourage my clients and my community to look elsewhere in their life where those moments of miracles, where those moments of divinity have shown up in their life, to give them some evidence, some believing that it is possible and it can be epic. It can be ground shaking. I will be fully honest, like I definitely had that mindset when I met Nick, but my walls were very high. I was being very protective, and it took me a while before I recognized him for who he was in my life. He knew right away, of course, but I definitely had a little bit of a longer time about it, but it really wasn't that long before I recognized him for who he was. It was dare I say it was about 10 days. It was very, very quick before I realized. Yeah, it is quick.
But when one person is ahead of you in the process, it could seem like an eternity. When I met my husband, he wanted to marry me like within a month or two. It was really quick, and I put him off for like another month. I felt like that was an eternity. Like, I'm not ready yet. So, same with having children. It was like he wanted to immediately have children, and I waited a month. But at that time, it felt like a long, long time. So, and I like that you say that you had the mindset, but you also had walls. And I think listeners can really relate to the walls. Because when you have walls and when you're not fully trusting and open, you can miss the right people. You can be afraid of the right people. They scare you. Somebody who really cares about you and loves you can feel like too much. So what kinds of things were you struggling with, if you don't mind sharing, like that you had to work through to really be open to the big love?
Yeah, well, I have experienced quite an arc in my life. I grew up as a slightly overweight, an emotional eater, and it was until my early 20s that I was chasing love. Well, I'll say that actually lasted a little bit longer, but in my early 20s, I actually shed a lot of excess weight and all of a sudden kind of was attractive to the opposite sex and was getting a lot of attention. And so I really kind of struggled with balancing my historic feelings about love, that like it was beyond my reach and always unrequited love, to all of a sudden I'm this, sexy, attractive thing that is, attracting a lot of attention. And so some of the walls that I had to break down in preparation for my beloved were checking my ego, to be quite honest with you. I got to a point with the gentleman that I was dating just before I met my beloved where, we both entered this as sort of a friendly, casual relationship, seeing where it would go, quote unquote. And 3 months in, my feelings changed for him, and I really desired more. And he was in a place in his life where he could not offer me more. And we were very open about this at the beginning. And what I realized was that, as I was getting huffy and pissy about, well, he can't give me what I want, I realized, well, gosh, what I wanted has changed. And so before I realized that, though, I had this moment of like, well, I'm a big flipping deal, and anybody would be just so excited to date me, and because I'm accomplished and I'm educated and I do self-development and, I'm a catch.
That's right.
Right? And which is absolutely an attitude that we want to embody, but I think that for a long time that was the attitude that held me back, because for a long time I felt like nobody was good enough. Or, and certainly I did experience men that didn't jive with what I was looking for. But on the other hand, I wasn't actually clear on what I was looking for, but I had this big sense of knowing that I'm a BFD, big flipping deal, or however you want to spell that out. And even though I said that kind of in a joking way, I also do believe that it set a tone and it set a standard for what I was calling into my life. And, and I had to kind of I had to stand by that, but I also had to be flexible and understand that, everybody who I date and everybody who crosses my path has the potential of gifting me something, has the potential of teaching me something or pushing me to grow in some way. And, so that was one of the big blocks that I had. I had several, though, to be honest.
I think we all, it depends on our childhood and our past experiences in relationship. So much of how we are today is formed through all of that unless we work through it and recognize what we're dealing with. And I think that having the attitude that you're a BFD is actually it's like taking the ego out of that and having it be about self-love is a good thing. But when it's nobody's good enough, and I was just talking to my sister yesterday, she's in town, and we were talking about how we grew up with the feeling, our parents thinking nobody was good enough for us. And I remember even my friends, they were never good enough. And so that was planted in my brain too. And it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to rule everybody out. I think you have to balance that self-love with loving others and seeing the good in others, and also knowing that your big love is going to probably show up in a package that's different than you think it's going to show up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, and once I got to the point where I realized, and it was kind of a quick turnaround, thank goodness. But I realized that gentleman, was not able to offer me what I wanted because what I wanted had changed. Then it shifted so much love for him because he was standing by what we had originally set out to do. He was standing by his own boundaries and his own commitment. And, and so I just felt this genuine love for him because he was being honest with me. He was saying, Bex, that's great, but I can't, that's not me. That's not what I'm in this for. I can't give that to you. So rather than stringing me along and pretending to be something that he knew that he couldn't be, he gifted me the freedom to make my own choice. And, and just had so much love for him in that moment. And this is what I share with my clients is that the easier a breakup gets, I believe the closer you are to never having a breakup again. And that was one of the easiest breakups.
That's a really great way to say it, and I think it's really about knowing your boundaries and knowing who you are, and I see as my clients get stronger and stronger in setting boundaries and speaking up from the beginning, knowing their must-haves and their deal breakers, and walking away from the wrong people and putting time into the right people. There's no big surprises. You're not like going, oh my God, I was so blindsided, and and you can let people go quicker. And,
Right.
I'm finding that as I evolve, like somebody just texted me. I had one phone call with him, and the phone call wasn't great. And I just really felt a disconnect. And, he from the outside, he's got a lot of really nice things going, and he lives in my town, which is rare for me. And he texted me and said, "Do you want to continue the conversation?" I said, "I'm learning to really trust my intuition, and my intuition says that we're not a good match, and I wish you the best." It's simple. It's not like you're a jerk. It's just that I don't think this is going to work, and I know it now. I don't want to give it 5 more chances. And so, could be breaking off with somebody from after one date, after one call, after 3 months, and the best breakups are where the person is a kind human being and gets it.
Right.
So if women want to break through their blocks, just like you did, what do you suggest?
Such a great question. There's a few pieces. One of the very first pieces that I work with my clients and my community on is really cultivating a 360-degree love of who you are. And, that's not saying that we have to be perfect before we meet our beloved, but we have to make a conscientious effort to accept and love all parts of us, even the parts that are, even the parts that don't get posted on Facebook, right? The private parts that we don't share with other people, the more difficult things that we go through. But to accept that it is all part of this beautiful divine human experience, and some of the things that we don't share as broadly with others, those are beautiful opportunities for us to look inward and look for ways that we can find love for that part of us. Fear is one of them. What are the things that we're afraid of? Where is that fear generating from? Oftentimes it's from a core wound. It's from something that generates from when we're very, very young. And so to love that element of us is to love who we were as a young person, as a child, to love the child in us that has that fear, that holds that fear. Cultivating a 360-degree love of who you are it can also mean really getting back to basics and developing strategies for radical self-care. A lot of the women that I speak with are, they run on empty. They're really caught up in their to-do list, their day-to-day, their hustle and bustle, and they've kind of separated from any kind of spiritual practice or grounding practice that gets them in touch with their still small voice. And I believe that the still small voice is the voice of the heart, is the voice of God, one of the many voices of God. But if we're not in touch with that quiet voice within ourselves, then I think that we're really far from who we are. And it's hard for us to have that 360 love for ourselves if we don't connect with that quiet place, that quiet voice within ourselves, at least several times a week. There's other practices that I share with my clients and my community beyond cultivating a 360-degree love of who you are. To break through your blocks, I recommend, I love, I call it being an evidence junkie. And this is, more of an action step of being alert and awake to where big love is evident everywhere in your life, whether it be, the love of a child or the unwavering love of your four-legged friend, or, the love that is displayed by strangers around you. You witness a man opening a door for a woman. You witness somebody standing up for a pregnant woman on the subway. You witness somebody helping pick things up after she's dropped her purse and everything is scattered. But these small acts of kindness are, in my mind, greater acts of love. And when we can kind of dial our frequency to where love is around us everywhere in our life, it really raises our own personal vibration to the vibration of love, and it helps us just get in more alignment with whomever that soul is that's praying us up right now, our beloved that's calling us in. It raises our vibration so that we are that love when we need him.
Mm-hmm.
So being an evidence junkie, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I love that one. And I know that, in my Facebook group, when I look through posts and I see the people who are responding out of fear and making up stuff, he didn't text back, oh, he's probably married. I mean, stuff like that where it's like they just immediately assume someone's cheating, married, will dump them, as opposed to the ones who see love in everything. And those are the ones who are dating, who have boyfriends now, and are giving love to everyone in the group. They're happily coupled and they're still pouring love out because they're overflowing. And you can feel it. You really can feel it. And those people are attractive to everybody, to men, to women, to everyone. And so I love the evidence junkie. It's I think what my friend Bobby Palmer says is look for contrary evidence. Look for, every time you think something is one way, look for contrary evidence that it's something else. And we tend to, that's the perspective that you see the world through. It's either you're seeing it through a very negative lens or seeing it through positivity, through love, through there's enough and abundance and all the things that you mentioned that are so crucial to calling in the right love for you and really believing it is possible. Okay, so we're going to go a little long since we started late, and it wasn't 26 seconds, it was 4 minutes. The time ticks down on my dashboard, so I was looking at it wrong. So if it's okay with you, we'll go a few minutes over, if that's all right?
Absolutely. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you. So when people feel like they're in a rut, because that happens all the time, they want to give up, they want to take a break, they feel that dating just doesn't work, online dating doesn't work, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
What can you suggest to people who feel like they're in a total rut?
Yes, this is one of my favorites. And this, I believe, can apply to your love life or to other areas of your life. But when clients come to me, when they say that they've done everything, they've tried everything, and they're in this rut, my directive is, what is one thing that has been simmering on your back burner? What's one thing that you've been dreaming up or thinking about for far too long and have not done? What's one thing that scares the living bejesus out of you that if you embarked on would invite you to rise and shift your ways of being and possibly step into a new iteration of yourself? What was one thing that would, if you stepped into and began to accomplish, would change your life in such a way that you would have to change the way you do things, change the way you think about things to bring this thing to completion? And the reason why I go there with it is because, I also believe that sometimes there is such a thing as efforting too much in our love life, in calling in our beloved. And so taking a break sometimes is warranted. That's not across the board, but sometimes that is the case. And not to say that doing this scary thing is, cannot happen simultaneously as you're calling in your beloved, because that can also happen too. But when we choose to take on something big and heart-focused that, is a calling from our heart. Like I said before, I believe that the voice of our heart is the voice of divinity, is the voice of God. And so when we have these longings and discontents, I believe that those are the direct voice of our desire. And when we move into that which we desire, especially if it's something that is scary and something that we haven't done before, it's going to ask us, like I said, to shift our way of being, shift our way of thinking, do things differently somehow that could very well be the missing ingredient that hasn't been happening in our love life. You know, for you to do the thing, that big scary thing, all the way to completion, it's going to require you to do things differently, because otherwise you would have done it before. You would have done this thing. And so whatever is in between you and doing this big soul-calling thing, like I said, I believe that this has the power to unlock the missing pieces, the missing mindset, the missing ways of being that can also be getting in the way of you and your beloved.
That's really cool. Because I think that I encourage people to get out of their comfort zone all the time and to pursue passions, because, first of all, I mean, it makes you a much more interesting person, but it also makes you more brave, and it makes you think bigger in your life, bigger than you ever imagined was possible. And I can speak from my own experience that my whole transformation post-divorce was about stepping into scary spaces. It was about being in the public eye for the first time. I married a performer. I was never that person. And knowing that I wanted to succeed in my business and I had to do things that scared the hell out of me. But I did them with passion, and I got up on a stage to speak because I was passionate about the message, and it transformed me. Because also every time you do something like that, you believe in yourself more, which increases your vibration, increases your own self-love, and it increases the quality of the person that you end up attracting into your life. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for rounding that out and bringing that all together. Yeah, absolutely. It really does invite you, it calls you into stepping into a new iteration of yourself. And I love your story, because this is, I think that this is just a direct invitation to women who are post-divorce. And, several of my clients married quite young and had their children, and their life was very centered around the marriage and the children, and there wasn't a lot of space or room for their own dreams and desires. And then post-divorce and even post-children, like there's this blank canvas that is just begging for creation. And, and like you said, stepping into that scary space and laying something down on that blank canvas it transforms you in a way that staying in your comfort zone just can't. And also, like, when you think about dating, do you want to date somebody who's stayed in a rut? Do you want to date someone who has not taken any risks in life? And I don't mean like jumping out of a plane and off a bungee cord off a bridge. Those are risks too, but I'm talking about emotional risks. And I know that I'm very attracted to men who are continuing to grow and learn and push the boundaries and move beyond limitations. Like when I hear about a man who's transformed his life after a divorce, he may have ended up with the wrong partner and given up a lot of his power, but if he's not blaming but taking action and saying, wow, I was really passive before, and now I am taking charge of my life. I am doing things that I was scared to do. That's the man that most of us are attracted to, not the guy who's stayed in the same job even though he hates it and he complains about it and he's got a heart condition because he hates it. And I mean, I've seen people who have ended up in the hospital with exhaustion, with all kinds of complications from being stuck in their lives, in their horrible job, in their horrible marriage, and they swear they're not going to go back. They just say, this was my wake-up call, and then they go right back when they feel better because it scares them to make a change. So, what's possible when you do make a change is just that your life expands exponentially, and it's just wonderful. So I love that. I love the connection between taking those risks and going after what makes your heart sing because it opens your heart to the other good, juicy stuff.
Yeah.
So That's a great note to end on. Open your heart to love. Take those risks. So if you were to end with just one statement that you want to have everybody take away, what would that be?
Love is coming from everywhere. I received a mantra from a girlfriend over a decade ago. I was having some money worry, money stress, and she gave me this mantra: money is coming from everywhere. Money is coming from everywhere. You say it 3 times. So I'd say it out on my runs in the morning, and then, right around the time I was thinking about calling in my beloved, my subconscious just snuck in my brain: love is coming from everywhere. And I stopped and I was like, whoa, girl, what are you doing there? What's going on? Why did you say that? Be careful what and sure enough, I kind of wrestled with it a little bit, and I said, you know what the hell? What the hey? I'm just going to, love is coming from everywhere, and I just started declaring it and shouting it, and it really, again, it reinforced that evidence junkie, and I really believe that statement was pivotal in opening me up to love and believing that love is coming from everywhere, and that it was very, very soon to cross my path in the form of my beloved.
Love it. That's a great mantra. So everybody, say that every day. Love is coming from everywhere. And you know what? I went to a lecture, and it was a positive psychology lecture a couple of weeks ago, and she gave I don't know if she gave us homework or she had done this, but it was about looking for the best thing that happened every day. And so right before you go to sleep, to think about the best thing that you had happen that day. And she said what happens over a period of time is you start focusing on the good. You start focusing on looking for that great moment, on the peak moment of your day, instead of looking for the bad. So I started doing that in my Facebook group. I did a 30-day challenge. Who's in? Let's all focus on what's good. And there's probably 3 people still doing it at the end of maybe 3 weeks. But it's still like I see the positives. I always post positive comments and positive memes like today's Gratitude Tuesday. What are you grateful for? Because what you focus on grows. And so I love what you stand for, Bex, and definitely the heart tuning and passion coaching speaks to what you do and who you are. So if you could tell everybody how to find you.
Sure. The best place to find me is on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Bex Burton Coaching, BEXBURTON. I am also on Instagram as Sense of Motion, SENSEOFMOTION, a little throwback from my dance and fitness days. And then I do have a website, which is bexburton.dreambuildercoach.com. And if you visit that, you can hop on to my love letter list that I send love letters to my community once or twice a week. And there's also a free gift attached to that, which I believe is a video series. And but yeah, I'm all over.
I think I'm connected to you all over.
That's right. Oh, and on Twitter, of course, I'm welcome to Bexico on Twitter. I like to call Bexico my little planet.
Well, Planet Bexico is a great place to be. I can attest to that, and I really appreciate you sharing with us today, Bex.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandy. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for joining us today. Thanks for sticking around for that glitch that we had, and I hope you all go on your last first date very soon. Have a great day.